What's going on, boys? Today we are talking a bit more order development. Not extremely important stuff, but food for thought. There is a document I'll link in the description, but one of the most important segments of that document involves the story of a man who accused the government of doing wacky shit to him. His claims were crazy, and he was in fact proven to be crazy, but after the fact, in classified fashion, Uncle Sam got weirded out because the government did, in fact, have the capability of doing to him what he claimed they did to him, even though they didn't, and civilians shouldn't have had any way to access that information, not to make real life claims, but even tidbits of information to make up fictional claims. He had information too specific to be a fluke, but he had no means of accessing them conventionally as far as they could tell. Now, I bring this up because this is a verified case from a government document. It doesn't need to be, but the fact this came up, and I had been thinking about this kind of thing for a couple weeks now, it's interesting. There's another idea: certain works of fiction by certain authors with certain topics, with a certain degree of focus and emotional intensity, might, via fiction, release information people aren't supposed to have, or shouldn't have a way of obtaining. I know Lovecraft is supposed to be one, but I don't know the specifics. I know the Illuminatus trilogy is supposed to be one, but I don't know the specifics. But you're a media hound. I'm sure you've encountered one of those moments, a piece of fiction accidentally fictioned an obscure part of reality you're almost certain the author has no connection to. Maybe you chalk it up to a synchronicity. But the fact Malkavians exist in fiction, with their sole grand power being this phenomenon, acts as an interesting and relevant here case in point. My point here being, reiterating, if a piece of information or an idea sticks out to you when you run across it in the world, or if a piece of information you realize is important crawls out of your head somehow, don't just dismiss it. Trust your senses. If something seems important, it probably is. Don't let it fizzle away. Now, another thing I've been doing recently is reading about that guy from Austria and his band of hoodlums and their interest in paranormal stuff. How exactly they became so relevant, so influential, so powerful in such a short period of time by schizo-bombing a disenfranchised population. And the book is a little annoying because it's, I'd say 70% fuck art school dropouts and 30% paranormal history, when I was expecting it to be more like 30-70 or 40-60 at least. But there is still useful stuff in there. As in, if you want to persuade a large number of people to fight for you, one of the things you do is select a hard-up, marginalized population. Then you take an idealized version of history, maybe inject fantastical elements, or draw on that culture's folklore. Maybe it's even an idealized aesthetic something far away, and then you say, this was, or this was you, and then this could be you, or this should be you. if not for this or that. And once you've enthralled people in this narrative, this idea, this image, you would be surprised at the degree of power you have in getting them to do things in what they think is the pursuit of it. I am sure you are already thinking of examples beyond the art student or not art student and his band of thugs. In America, you have the early alt-right movement. You have the Black Israelites. You have Antifa. You have Reagan boomers. You have Woodstock boomers. You have constitutional fundamentalists, whatever the fuck that is. At least in the United States, every major group is in part running on a fantastical, fictionalized, semi-historical narrative of the past, seeking a future in that fiction's image. My point in bringing this to your attention is not to say there is nothing at all in those narratives. In fact, I think those narratives are valuable and revealing and can, perhaps, when using them as a lens from the right angle, can make people a little more sympathetic. But they are powerful methods of control, either getting you to do shit you shouldn't be doing or wouldn't be doing, or to give up your resources for something that isn't real, and maybe you watch out for them, or if you've been taken by one, maybe reevaluate what's happening. I'm horribly guilty of it, and maybe you'll start seeing those patterns elsewhere and might not as easily be taken in by them. Next on the list are rituals that matter. I've been thinking about the sorts of rituals that actually accomplish something, and the fact that what rituals might accomplish something for me or someone like me probably won't do anything for another person, which puts me in a weird spot. But last time we were talking about thought rituals one undertakes that might accomplish something you might find truth in, or that might be true themselves. Now let's think about that in a different way. What happens if you come up with a foundational concept, what could be a pillar of a school of thought, an idea that sounds like it is something, and maybe it is something, but you know for a fact it isn't. Maybe. Example, we all know you are two parts. There's you, and then there is your shadow. Well, in reality, it's not you, your conscious mind, versus your unconscious mind, trying to integrate the two. In reality, you, the you think you are, is your sentience. And your sentience is a parasite leeching off the actual you, which is not you, not the thing that's thinking. Or rather, it is thinking, and there is some communication between you, the sentience, the thinker, the parasite, and the shadow, the unconscious mind, the soul, actually you, but not you. And what you, the conscious mind, does is anything and everything that will detriment your shadow, your unconscious mind, your true self, and prevent it from developing. Your natural mode exists to keep your soul down. Now, the path to enlightenment is to do things you really don't want to do. Things you find yourself drawn to, maybe feel you might benefit from, or think are important, feel are important, rather, but you, on no level, want to do. When you try to force yourself to do them, you hate them. You'd rather go back and do things that will make you, or your soul rather, more dormant. Your job as the sentient shepherd to your unconscious soul is to sacrifice your comfort doing things that are good for your soul but bad for your sentient comfort. Give up your short-sighted sentient needs and take care of and uplift your unconscious soul. Something that is you, but absolutely not you. Now, while that idea came to me and I find it interesting, I think it's bullshit. But it's also a bug in my noggin that won't go away. What happens when you sit with an idea for a long time you don't believe in but find yourself drawn to? I don't know, but whatever this is feels like a more powerful ritual than hiking into the woods and reading poetry after arranging rocks. I'm having such a hard time with rituals that are like light 3 candles, draw a circle, write some names in the dirt, and then get something but really get nothing. When you could be... You can't see it, I'm sticking both my fingers to my temples, thinking about shit and getting somewhere. And then on that note, an idea I read from someone is waking life is just a more solid dream. You can dim or thin it with work, which ties back into the Lovecraft thing. I didn't like the Dreamlands stories very much, but once you start looking at them from that angle, they become more interesting. Now, the next thing or things I wrote down because they are actual order development and not just dicking around. I've been thinking about what makes unestablished or previously unestablished movements or organizations successful. And I'm putting together a list, not necessarily in order. The first one on the list is the reason the organization exists. What is the problem we are trying to solve? The second item on the list is the mission statement. What are we doing about it, ultimately? What always can we be working toward? What are all our other actions feeding into? The third item on the list is a bit of a jumble. Thesis statements, core concepts and tenets, secondary objectives. What do we believe, not broken down into one sentence, many sentences, many statements? What are all the things we are doing, upholding? 4 and 5 are ceremonial rituals and general or daily rituals. A ceremonial ritual is something you do to signify a big change. Things are different after this. I'm sure if you attended your high school graduation, no matter what you thought about school or what your plans were, it felt like something big, even though it's just a stupid high school graduation. It's not the graduation that is significant. It is the ceremony, the ritual, signifying your life and responsibilities are about to change forever. Let's say you get married, almost certain you're going to divorce in under a year. And let's say you don't even have a real wedding. You're just signing papers. Even if you are going into it casually with a doomed mindset, this is marking the beginning of something significant. I love Anthony Cumia's wedding story for this example, because he got married thinking it was a casual thing, like this is just what a young man is supposed to do, and then on his wedding night, he is crying on his bed, knowing this is going to be one of the biggest mistakes of his life. And let's say, on the other hand, you get married with good intentions. Real ceremony, big ritual. You are making a commitment that is supposed to last until you're dead. This isn't just an abstraction. Your priorities are changing. Your responsibilities are changing. Your expectations of the world and expectations coming in on you are changing. An organization benefits from these ceremonial rituals by making a member feel impact, feel gravity. When things happen, things happen. You are part of a flowing force. I'm still fascinated with branding. You take these steps to prove commitment, then you endure pain and a permanent change to your body at your own hand, after which point you are entrusted with responsibilities that need you and you benefit from, others need you for. There's something about that I find important that I need to figure out. Then you have daily rituals. These are not rituals as much as they are responsibilities speaking to your station. Like, let's say you are a shepherd. First thing you do when you wake up is check your sheep. That's not a special ritual per se, but it's not something a banker is doing. It's something you need to do, something people like you need to do, and while it serves a practical purpose, it also reminds you of what you are. Number 6 is visual identifiers. Number 7 is reasons to collaborate at all. Why not work or seek alone? And that's less of a every organization has this question thing, although I suppose it's implicit, and more of a personal question. As in, I could probably make a handbook for myself and then disseminate it and try to effect some kind of change via disease doctrine. Everyone working independently as bodies, but together as an idea. But if that is the way to go, why is there still a draw toward actual collaboration? And why would people collaborate when working alone would probably be the better, more effective idea? Number 8 is aesthetic. Every hyper-successful order or organization has a general look to them. You can pick them out of a crowd. And I separate aesthetic from visual identifiers because, as we were discussing before, presentation is half the package. A visual identifier serves the purpose of allowing people to identify each other visually. An aesthetic gets its talons into your and others' heads. Example, a group of Germanic hoodlums has a much more potent aesthetic than a group of Neo-Germanic hoodlums. And I'm not entirely sure why, but that is the case. Number 9 is a method of earning money and expanding. These groups don't get hyper-successful, poor, and alone, which is one of the reasons this whole collaboration versus independence question for our situation confuses me a little bit. We should be poor and alone. but I don't know yet. I haven't worked that out completely. Something feels insincere about organizing to earn and recruit. And to note, all these elements I'm listing are used primarily by arguably, or I would label them all as insincere or not completely righteous groups. What we're considering doing here is using these elements in sincere, righteous ways, which is why collaborating, organizing, earning, expanding feels wrong, even though that is what should be happening if it wants to go anywhere, but maybe it doesn't want to go anywhere, or maybe it doesn't need it. I don't know. Number 10 is historical or spiritual narrative, which we discussed earlier. Skipping around, not to get too spicy. Number 13, holy texts slash guiding canon. The writing on the wall, the trusted writing on the wall, people can turn to and contemplate when they need it. And as longtime boys know, we have been talking holy texts for years, so we are already a little bit okay in that department. Number 14 is saints and a pantheon of mythological members, lore, living embodiments of your organization's core tenets. Even better if they were members of your organization, and I use the word were instead of are. As for other ones, you can put them together yourself, or if you come up with any good ones, let us hear about them. Then some even less structured and more us specific thoughts. I was thinking about the way certain orders have public faces, or degrees members who aren't really members can access and interact with the order without being part of it. So our letters are SOOA. There could be a forward-facing branch or arm called the Scholastic Order of America. More of like a Dionysian Mechanicus thing, engaging in the arts, but also study and the preservation of knowledge. Just a little blue and gold colored group that meets every now and then to discuss the finer things and exchange notes. A completely benign atheist organization. A benign, unassuming organization that maybe recruits people who may be attracted to the aesthetic of such a group, who would be willing to part with funds to support that group, not realizing their vanity association with an organization that does have a genuine mission is in fact funding something a little bit different. That's where the branding is, that's where the training is, that's where the alienation, the depression, the depersonalization are. If you're 24 minutes into this nothing video on this nothing channel, that's where you are, and that's where the unacceptable use their funding and connections to awaken to whatever there is to awaken to. Who knows? But I do like the separation of arms and the fact the scholastic arm does serve a genuine purpose, just modeled a little bit more acceptably. The last component would be the physical training. I believe there are physical achievements that should be sought after, which are fulfilling maybe to some people on the one hand, and practically useful for certain on the other. But that's about all I have this go-round. It's beginning to shape up into something. But that about rippity wraps this one up. I hope you enjoyed watching, because I certainly enjoyed making it. Like if you enjoyed, because that helps me out a lot. Subscribe if you haven't, because we do this shit sometimes. And comment your thoughts, because I love hearing from you. Seriously, tell me what skills you know well enough you could teach, and then tell me what skills you are interested in, but have trouble learning by yourself. Thanks again for watching, everybody. We have a lot of fun on this channel. So much fun, in fact, you can pack it up tight and lock it up, because all the best fun is locked up. And that's so much we have on this channel, and I look forward to doing this with you guys again in the future.